Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for the support for the video over the weekend. I did a video on the Championship and players that are ready for the Premier League, and I basically said within that, if we could get 3,000 likes, and I thought I was safe. I thought I was fine. But if we got 3,000 likes, then I would do a video on my beloved Queen's Park Rangers to dive into the season so far. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go through it all. So I'm going to talk about the team. I'm going to talk about the season so far. I'm going to talk about the manager. A lot of talk about Warburton at the moment. I'm going to talk about relegation, which is what could be happening this season. And if I think that we're, going to go up or down or whatever it might be. And also I'm going to talk about some of the transfer prospects coming in and going out of the club. There's actually a couple of players that are linked with a lot of Premier League clubs at the moment, like Senny Dieng and Bright Say Samuel. So I'm going to dive into all of that in this video. Before I do kick off, if you have been enjoying the content recently, we've had a real good Christmas, basically, where people seem to be enjoying the content right now. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button just yet, maybe now's the time. Hit the subscribe button. Do me a favor. It helps the channel massively, as does hitting the like button. Like I said, over 3,000 likes on the last video, which is more than I think I've ever had for a video. I do stream a Football Manager save with Queen's Park Rangers, the very Super Hoops. I am managing them, and I'm bringing in the players that I feel like QPR need to get themselves out of the Championship. And actually, at the moment, we're doing really, really well on Twitch at the moment. 5 unbeaten for Queen's Park Rangers. They rocket to the Premier League. If you don't follow me on Twitch, there is a link in the description. Make sure you do it. So if we have a look at the league table, there it is. We're struggling at the moment. We're in 20th position. The team's below us, and that's a big thing for a team like QPR. And I'm going to talk about the whole setup of Queen's Park Rangers, because I reckon there's still quite a lot of fans who just kind of, saw QPR leave the Premier League and then was like, oh, okay, well, they've still got loads of money, haven't they? Yeah, that's not us anymore. So we'll dive into all of that in a second. But just the basic, situation at Queen's Park Rangers at the moment is that we are, after 22 games, we're 20th in the league. Derby County, who are starting to have a bit of a resurgence over the last few weeks, although they did just get pumped by Chorley. They are below us. They've been bottom of the league. Sheffield Wednesday, of course, have had a big points deduction as well. So that's been a big problem for them. But they are now starting to find their feet. But they are still a decent way off us at the moment. Rotherham and Wycombe, two of the other teams that were expected to be down there at the start of the season. So it's not exactly where we want to be, but the Championship is a really difficult division. It's like, when people talk about it being the best league in the world, the reason they're saying that is, of course, look, it's not the Premier League in terms of quality. That's why that is a league above it, right? But in terms of the competitive nature of this league, there is honestly nothing like it. In the Premier League, you see teams sit back, defend for their lives. In the Championship, generally, you have, I remember Clive Whittingham, who, any QPR fans, if you don't check out Loft for Words, then you're crazy, because Clive Whittingham writes some amazing articles. And I remember him once using this kind of analogy that in Championship football sometimes, and a lot of people might see this as a negative, I don't. I see it as a great thing, is you see 22 players just crash into each other. That's what you often see in the Championship. And so in terms of winning games and losing games, just sort of sitting back and hoping for the best is not something that's going to kind of work. So when it comes to QPR, the team that you all sort of saw fall from the Premier League or bounce up and down, win the playoffs back in 2014. Zamora! Great times. That team is gone. That team is over. That team is dead. And the whole philosophy of QPR as a football club is completely different. And although we are dealing with some of the scars of that to this day, we had a big fine from Financial Fair Play after, everyone knows how that went down. The amount of money that we spent over that period of time. And you've seen that with a lot of owners over the years, where they spent a lot of big money, got themselves into the Premier League, and then hope to stay in the Premier League. But I think, look, the Premier League is such a beast that the chemistry of a team, as well as the tactical side and the technical proficiency of a team and the players within that, all of those have to be completely right for you to just survive in the Premier League. It's so cutthroat. So you're not guaranteed anything, and we've seen that with a lot of clubs. QPR, unlike other clubs, then got this Financial Fair Play fine, which has led us to have to really kind of change our whole way of being and actually get back to what QPR was best at, which was picking up players from the lower leagues or players that weren't kind of wanted maybe from those bigger clubs, and bring them in and nurture them and develop them and sort of grow the club alongside with that. Back in the day, we used to do that all the time. The likes of Les Ferdinand, The likes of Rufus Brevitt, the likes of Trevor Sinclair, more importantly, maybe Andy Sinton, all those kind of players in the best years of QPR, right when I first started supporting them. Yeah, that's right. I supported them in the 90s and then it just went and then bounced back up. So it's not all too bad, but we've been up and down, right? But when we were at our best, it was bringing those players who had just real hunger, but also ability, and giving them an opportunity to flourish. And that's what we're trying to get back to. You could see that very, very clearly, because that's the other thing I think with football now is I think people are starting to understand that if you just keep throwing money at it, you're in deep trouble because it can go so badly wrong. And there is a lot of money in the Championship, but for QPR, because of the financial fair play ruling and the money that we've got to give, and that's gonna tie our hands behind our back. And that also, you add to the fact that our gates and attendances are much lower than a lot of other teams. Because of that, that means you're not bringing as much money in. So again, you've got to be correct when it comes to financial fair play. So we've made a very clear move to going for the youngsters. Like back in the day, or literally, sorry, actually, for about 20 years, we just didn't even bother bringing through youngsters. There was this kind of general idea that Kevin Gallen, and I think it was Richard Langley, if you remember him, those were the two that kind of came through and actually properly established themselves as players for Queen's Park Rangers. Up until about 3-4 years ago, I think it was when Holloway came in, he started to bring those players through. You know, that was enforced, of course, by Les Ferdinand as our director of football and Chris Ramsey and the whole team. But to understand that we need to start bringing through these assets so that we can sell them on, make money and buy better ones. And so that's what we're doing now. And with that, there are going to be good seasons, bad seasons, and problems in between. And this is something I said before the season started, that when you lose the players that we've lost, you're going to get yourself in big trouble. So, and in particular, the players that we've lost, we've lost so many goals from this team. Now, let me get into the stats. Let me show you the situation that QPR are in, because we've lost so many goals from this team. And when that happens, and I'll get into the current team in a second, you're going to lose. You're going to lose football games, or you're not going to be as competitive as you were. Now, remember last season, I can't even remember where we finished. I think it was about 14th in the end, wasn't it? 13th we finished in the Championship, which was a good season, and we were really entertaining, which was great. But let's have a look at the goals and assists. Eze, not there anymore. Hugel, not there anymore. Narky Wells, not there anymore. Grant Hall, not there anymore. Okay? Ryan Manning, not there anymore. And then if you click on the assists, Bright Samuel, who's a shining light for us this season, probably our best player at the moment, certainly from an attacking point of view. I guess it's him and Ilias Chair, which we'll dive into in a second. But Bright Samuel, up there with the assists, that's great. But Eze, Manning, Wells, Pugh, none of those players are there anymore. Hugel, not there either. So when you lose that amount of goals, you've got to bring in players and hope that you can turn it around. This season, we obviously haven't been able to do that. We have a look at the goals after 22 games. I think last year, Narky Wells left the club around this time, and he had 13 goals. You've got Ilias Chair, Lyndon Dykes, Bright Samuel, Macaulay Bonne. Macaulay Bonne's on 2 goals so far. Lyndon Dykes and Macaulay Bonne are the 2 players that we brought in to fill the gap, I guess, in terms of the goals that we've conceded so far. The goals that we'd lost from last season with the players that had gone. So the squad at the moment is it's so young. Let's look at the age of the club. Jeff Cameron is still playing games, right? Lee Wallace is cropped. He's not up to it anymore. Adoma doesn't really start too many games. He's coming off of the bench a lot of the time. You've got a bit of experience there in Tom Carroll, Barbe, Todd Kane. Then after that, the age it's incredible, right? So what's that? 5-6 players, all 27 or over. 27 or over, which isn't old. 30 all over. We've got 3 players, one of which doesn't play. After that, the age of this squad is so young. This highlights a very clear philosophy in terms of the age of players that we're trying to bring through. And it highlights a long-term plan. It highlights players like Connor Masterson, Chris Willock. I think Ilias Chair has been at Tottenham at different times. Luke Amos, who this is a bit of a nightmare for us, who we brought in this season. Last season, we were starting to find his feet. This year, we're really expecting him to do something quite special for us and be a key midfielder for us, because we bought him from Spurs. Another player dropping down. Dominic Ball, another one. Todd Kane, another one. Tom Carroll, I guess you could say the same, but maybe he's a little bit older now, so we won't allow that one. But you get where I'm going. The idea of building a squad that is littered with players that have got something to prove but have had that kind of tutelage at those top clubs is a really good idea. You then mix that up with the other players that we've brought in. So the other players that we've brought in, even this season, you have a look. George Thomas, who I think, we've got from Leicester, but was at Coventry, has played generally League One football. Macaulay Bonne did well at Charlton Athletic in League One and then in the Championship last season. Lyndon Dykes from Scotland, you're hoping that there's value there from someone like him. Players like that coming through from a lower level. And of course, Bright Samuel as well. Bright Samuel came from Blackpool a good few years ago. Again, this is the second ingredient, I think, of a club that is slowly moving in the right direction. But when you look at it close up, you're like, hang on a minute, we're 20th in the Premier League here. I'm getting pretty nervous. But what we're trying to do is correct. The problem with some of these youngsters that you bring in, certainly, for example, Macaulay Bonne, who's struggled, and I'm not sure is good enough for the Championship personally. And actually, I think when I think about Championship players, I actually look at it and I go, having watched QPR like through the years, you have League One players, you have players that, so if they're League One, they're not good enough for the Championship. But then you've got players that are Championship players, they're standard Championship players, and I could go through that here. But then you've got players who are top 10 players in the Championship for me. Then you've got players that are top 6 good players who you could see getting promoted into the Premier League. And then from there, there's just a massive gap between that and being good enough for the Premier League. I think that gap is decreasing massively, by the way, because I think the coaching and, again, the philosophy of a lot of the clubs now is understanding of the technical proficiency that players need to have, right? So that gap is getting smaller, I believe. But still, there are different players for different levels, right? So if you lose the likes of Eze, who's a Premier League player, we've proven that. Hugill, who is a top 6 player. Nahki Wells, who's at the very least a top 10 player, top 6 player when he's in great form. Ryan Manning, who's a top 6 Championship player for me as well. Then when you lose those players, it's going to be a problem. And when you're bringing in players who are cheap and young, that means you've got sell-on value, which is exciting for us. Obviously, that's a bit of a shame when it comes to Bright Samuel. We're talking about the clubs that he's been linked with, big clubs that he's been linked with. But when you bring through those youngsters from League One or elsewhere, some of them will work, some of them won't. But the good thing is that you're buying players that you can sell on because they're not 33, 34, and they have no sell-on value. So what's happening here, I like, right? Next thing, look, in terms of matches played, I said to you guys earlier, for a long time, we weren't bringing through any players through our academy. I'm so proud of the fact, regardless if we go down this season or not, because look, let's have it right. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm okay with this long-term approach. I think a lot of the time, football fans, understandably, are panicking. And I get the panic around QPR right now because we are 20th in the league. At the moment, I feel like there's Rotherham and Wickham that are clearly worse than us. We'll get into the stats in a second. But otherwise, you've got bigger clubs around us. We don't have those Premier League players. And going back to it, the amount of youngsters that we're bringing through at the moment, a lot of these aren't going to be good enough, but you won't find out unless you give them games. Players that we brought through: Ilias Chair, Seni Dieng, Hamalainen, Kai. Connor Masterson is, gently coming through. I guess he's from Liverpool, really. Maybe take that one off. Paul Smith, Joe Lumley. There are players here that are coming through and getting games. And last season was exactly the same. Again, I go back to the problem being that we don't score goals at the moment. We're not scoring goals. And it's a lot of talk has been about creating chances, it being a problem with the midfield as much as it being anything else. First of all, I think in terms of our starting lineup, our fullbacks aren't good enough. And for the way that we want to play, which is quite an expansive way of playing, there's just this massive detachment between kind of the midfield. You've got some guys who pop it about, but the fullbacks aren't good enough. Because the fullbacks aren't good enough, they're not getting on enough because they're not competent enough, and we're therefore just being kind of safe at the back. So we're kind of creating chances, but I don't think they're very great chances. And so therefore we need to be really clinical with what we're doing, because we end up having 3 players, Bright Samuel, Lyndon Dykes, Ilias Chair, up front, and we're going, go on guys, sort us out, get us a goal. And so we need a little bit of help in this team at the moment. We're just not clinical enough at all, because in terms of shots per 90, we're in the top half of the league, which isn't too bad. Shots on target, bang, straight down there. We're not creating good enough chances, and we're keeping possession. We're a good possession side. In terms of shots, look, 245. We're fine, but shots on target right down there. That's the big problem. So for us, in terms of staying up this season, it's about being clinical, and bringing in Charlie Austin is huge for that. I've seen a few things on Twitter. Someone I respect massively, Gabriel Sutton, who he just doesn't rate Charlie Austin. He tweeted me back when I tweeted out that we're going to get goals. We're going to get goals because Charlie Austin's actually finally at the club. It's not about it being Charlie Austin, because actually I was probably one of the people who used to criticise Charlie Austin quite a lot. But that was in a quite dominant team with lots of great players. And the reason for it was we were kind of, he does just score goals and that's it. But to be honest, that's exactly what we need. I've just shown you there with the stats, is we need someone that's going to be really, really clinical for us. Because Lyndon Dykes, I like him. I love his work rate. But he feels like a completely spare part in this team. Lyndon Dykes is a player who probably plays for a team that doesn't play the kind of football that we play, with players that want to kind of get on the ball, recycle it. The likes of Tom Carroll in midfield, Dominic Ball, who got better and better last season as a defensive midfielder. He got to a point where he's actually a bit of a playmaker there, right? So we've got players like that. So Lyndon Dykes, he needs someone with him. And so to have someone like Charlie Austin with him could be interesting. Has he got the pace, Charlie Austin, to be the kind of like the final man? Not sure, but I don't think he's really ever had that much pace. And if you think of back in the day, we used to have Bobby Zamora. Bobby Zamora was that target man, and then he had Charlie Austin, off the back of him. And he scored a lot of goals for us. And we just need someone clinical, someone who is just ready to score goals. You can see with that with the other people that we're linked with at the moment. Obviously, we've signed Charlie Austin here, and I'm going to talk about the players that might be going as well now. But Charlie Austin has already signed. This is an article from last week. But one of the other people that we were linked with was Jordan Rhodes. Jordan Rhodes from Sheffield Wednesday, who I don't mind Jordan Rhodes, but he's had a couple of hard seasons for me. I think we can maybe dip into a Premier League team and get someone who's a bit of a better fit. The other one that we've been linked with, Glenn Murray, who's been on loan at Watford so far this season, and hasn't really played many games. I wouldn't mind him, but I think the point that needs to be made is that he has like zero pace. You know, absolutely zero pace. And so if we've already got Charlie Austin, I think that one is dead in the water, because we just don't need two of a similar kind of player. But I like where the rumours are kind of heading. Players that score goals aren't going to have that kind of dip in confidence. I think that's a big thing when you've got strikers. I think that's maybe the thing with Lyndon Dykes, is that he's in a position where he's just not there as a goal scorer just yet. You know, he offers so much more, and often players that offer so much more, they get where they get to in their career because of that, not because of the goal scoring. And so for me, someone like Charlie Austin, who's happy with the pressure of it being about goals, I think is huge for us. On to players that might leave us. And by the way, the other players I feel like we desperately need. We need a left back. We really, really need a left back. And, playing Fulham at the weekend, that's a team that maybe we could go and get someone from. Joe Bryan, they probably wouldn't let him go. But they've got like 3 or 4 left backs at the moment. And one's out on loan at Bristol City in Sessegnon. So I'd love to get we need a left back. We need a right back. I think we can get away with Todd Kane as our right back, but we really do need a left back. Let's talk about Seny Dieng. Seny Dieng has been our goalkeeper this year. In previous years, or last year, we had Joe Lumley, who had a really good first season. He was absolutely fabulous, was Joe Lumley. But then in his second season, he really struggled. Liam Kelly was signed from Scotland as well, from Livingston. And he was steady, but overall didn't really dominate the area for us. And so they've looked to Seny Dieng, who's actually 26 now, which is crazy. He was on loan at Doncaster last year and was absolutely brilliant. For this year, he's been great. Really, really commanding, really calm. He's a big guy. Do you know what? He catches the ball. That's what I love about him. He catches the bloody ball. Playing for a Warburton team that does play football, and so he's got to be good with his feet, and he generally is quite good with his feet. I still think there's room for him to grow, and he needs more games, but he is a calming influence, and he has been very impressive, and he is homegrown, which is huge, right? And I spoke about him as my one pick for QPR in terms of a player that's Premier League ready. And I think for him to go and battle it out maybe at a Premier League club would be really good for him. And I like the clubs that he's been linked with. So he's been linked with Crystal Palace, he's been linked with Leeds United, and he's been linked with Arsenal, actually. Now, for all of those, I think he starts off as the backup. Meslier is maybe the one that he can maybe, look to sort of battle it out with and get into the team straight away. But Gaeta at Palace has been brilliant, and Bernard Leno is not going anywhere, is he? So I could see this happening. And if I was Arsenal, just, almost for that homegrown talent, to have a player that's going to come in. Was it Runarsson, who was the goalkeeper, who was absolutely awful in, was it one of the cup games, I think, the Man City game? He's a better fit than that. Crystal Palace would be a really good shout because you've got Gaeta who's getting older. Hennessy is old as well. But apparently, according to this article, Roy Hodgson said that he's quite happy with his options. I don't think that means too much. What I don't want is Crystal Palace becoming our bloody feeder club that we just give all our best talent to. You've already got Eze. So go to Leeds, Senny. Yeah. Obviously, they probably know a bit more about him. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Leeds United because they've got the money to go and buy him. They've probably got some good intel from his time at Doncaster Rovers as another, Yorkshire club. And that, they're struggling with goalkeepers at the moment. Casillas is terrible. So they need a better backup. Meslier has had a couple of moments, right? Moving on, Glenn Murray already spoke about that. Jordan Rhodes, look, we do need a striker. It is about us being clinical. We need to get that sorted out. Bright Say Samuel. So the future of him, it looks like he's being linked with Celtic and Rangers. That was one that came up in the summer. Look, with Bright, I love him. I love him to bits, but I feel like we probably... He's so good for us, but you can tell he doesn't want to be there. You can just tell. And I understand that. He was linked with, Bruges in the summer. I don't think it was the best move for him, but it looks like he's comfortable making a move abroad. It seems like Premier League clubs don't like the look of him at the moment. I think he's good enough to be maybe not a Premier League starter, but a fantastic substitute to bring on. He's got better and better as almost a bit of a target man on that right-hand side. He's got these big long arms and he's very strong, so strong that at times he was able to kind of almost play against the fullback, take the ball on, then just roll him. Technically, he's got better. I think huge credit to Chris Ramsey and the academy because he came in and he was very raw. But then he was given his chance and he took it to a point. But then we actually took him out again just to develop him again. And he's got better and better and better. He's brilliant. I think he's good enough for the Premier League, no doubt. If Celtic or Rangers were able to get their hands on him, I think that could be that sort of halfway house for him where he goes and plays in huge games of football, goes and plays in the Europa League, will be a starter and a really exciting player for both of those clubs. But then could, get himself that move to the Premier League, if that's what he wants, right? Because apparently Football Insider is saying that he's in advanced talks with Fenerbahce, which would be insane for him as well. So I think any of those clubs would be fine. And actually, I think he would go and slot into that level of football much better than he would at the Premier League. I think in the Premier League, he would be a substitute for a newly promoted team or even the other team that might want to take a punt on him would be someone like a Sheffield United who could do with that kind of winger inside forward that he is, that to give them a completely different option. It'd be interesting to see if they fancied having a go at him. And then if he drops down to the Championship, he'd be fine with it. But at 23 years, I think he's at a place where he's seen the likes of Eze move on, the likes of Ryan Manning move on, and I think he believes he's good enough to do it as well. Sharon from EastEnders will not be leaving the club. So those are the two big players that look like they might be leaving. The only other player that you might want to talk about is Ilias Chair, who's been brilliant this year. I don't think he's there yet. I think he needs to stay with us. I think his size it'd be interesting to see if that will be a problem with him moving forward. I think he's been so creative for us, and actually I'm really excited to see him and Charlie Austin link up because I think that kind of, those little looks from a striker, I think he sees those. He's got a great awareness. He scored more goals this season, could have scored even more. And I think with just a few additions, maybe a few options that almost release space in that central area where he plays that attacking midfielder could be brilliant for him as a player. Because if we had those fullbacks bombing on, you'd have other players concerned. And then he might be able to use his trickery because he doesn't really have that pace or that size to dominate in that way. He's got to be a much cuter player, and he has, and he's got much better this year. He's developing season on season, so he's been great. Final thing we want to talk about has got to be Mark Warburton, and a lot of talk about him maybe losing his job. Now, at the start of the video, I think I highlighted this long-term approach that QPR are sort of trying to go with, and I think the thing with that will mean that yes, you might be at risk of going down, but by playing good football with the players that we've got that are coming through an academy where they're looking to play great football as well, we're creating better footballers, and we're creating better footballers at an earlier stage, if you know what I mean. At 18, they're playing good football. They're not just playing, old school percentage football. So I believe that although Warburton has his faults, he doesn't like having a plan B, and that can be frustrating. And actually, I thought the signing of Dykes was actually a sort of sign of that. He was looking to do that. And I think they were hoping that the front players that we had would be enough. I think there's such a problem with the fullbacks for me that they're left alone, like I said earlier, and that's been a bit of a problem. But most games we're great in the first half. We keep the ball. We've got good possession. We're getting shots on target. Are we creating enough chances? Probably not. But are we taking those chances? Absolutely not. And so that is down on Warburton, but it's down on the quality of the squad as well, which has been decimated. In terms of goals, it's been absolutely decimated. We're always in games. And I think that is a massive thing for me. As time goes on, I feel like that long ball approach, it's just not a long-term sustainable option for a lot of clubs. Look at Brentford and the making money from the players' assets. Look at Swansea and having that philosophy of play that actually players from big clubs want to loan out their players to progressive managers and progressive teams. That's what QPR need to do to get yourself into the top six, to give yourself a chance of getting into the top league. And once you get into the top league, then you go again and try and get a foothold there. And that's how you build a football club. We need to use the loan market. I think they know that now. I think they wanted to give it a chance and see how good are these youngsters. I think they now know how good these youngsters are, as well as the players that we've brought through. So I trust that we will do that. I trust that we will bring in the players. The midfield, I think, is okay. It circulates the ball well enough. Tom Carroll's been really good this season. We needed that striker. We've got Charlie Austin. We need the fullbacks. And Warburton, I like. I do like him. I don't think there are many smarter managers in the Football League, to be honest. People will get frustrated with him, but I think any frustration is down to kind of the purity of the way that he wants to play, the lack of a plan B, but I think sometimes the lack of a plan B can come from a lack of options. And I feel like that's where we are at the moment. I feel like last year with Jordan Hugel as that front man who gives you that little bit of size. He's looking to do the same thing with Lyndon Dykes this season. I like him. I do like Warburton. I think we play good football, and I think he'll get the best out of these players. He'll develop these young players to allow us to sell. And also, if we want to get out of this league, we need to play this kind of football and then catch on with a group of players that is good enough for the playoffs. And so last year, if we'd been able to get Charlie Austin Hugel for another season, if we'd been able to hang on to Nahki Wells, if we'd been able to keep Eze for another season, this team would be right up there. I honestly believe that. Because Rob Dickey's been good as a centre-back. Conor Masterson, I still believe, will get better. He's got that pedigree from Liverpool. Barbe's actually been okay at times this season, although he's always due a calamity. The defence and the midfield is one thing, but in this league, in the Championship, in any league really, it's about your forward players, and that's where we're hurting ourselves at the moment. So will we get relegated? I'm very nervous about it. If it continues on this path, then yes, but I don't think this squad is the squad that we will finish with come January. I think there'll be a couple more loan signings coming in. That's not something that we've done so far, but I think we will pull the trigger on that, and I hope that we'll be okay. As a QPR fan, I'm not going anywhere. That's always the thing I think about. So this long-term approach, and the times when it's not going well, I can understand it. I can get with it. Like, are all the decisions that get made, do I understand why they're being made? Macaulay Bond's not really working. He's probably not good enough. But do I understand why we've signed him? Yes. I understand most of the decisions that's being made. It's a young squad that's going to grow. We can sell that money. We can recycle it. And in 5 years' time, we might be looking at this squad where we've got by the skin of our teeth and go, well, we didn't really spend that much money and we survived during the pandemic. And now look at us. That's what I think about this team. And I don't want us to change it, because if we bring in Tim Sherwood or we bring in another manager, I don't think they will be as progressive as Mark Warburton. And I don't think we're a million players off. I always think about what Jamie Carragher said. He always says, he said, you're always 3 players away. When it's going terrible, you think, oh, look, everyone's terrible. We're not terrible. We're just 3 players away. Those are my thoughts on QPR. Oh, Can you tell I've been wanting to do that? A little bit. That's me when it comes to QPR, right? I just miss my team, man, and I miss going to games so much. So much. But we just got to hang in there. And look, we're not going up this year. And I think that's why there's a bit of apathy about QPR at times, and I understand that. But for all QPR fans, I think it's just about getting behind the lads and enjoy the fact that we've got a club that is forward-thinking, that thinks about its place in its community, that is bringing players that are young and exciting, where you find the likes of an Eze or an Ilias Chair, which we didn't find for 20 years. There's a lot of positives there. We just need to hang in there. We just need to hang in there and get a couple more loans in. Les, if you're watching. So there you have it, guys. Those are my thoughts on Queen's Park Rangers. Let me know what you think about maybe the broader strokes of what I'm talking about if you're not a QPR fan. What you think about what's necessary to get yourself out of the Championship or out of League One or out of any league. What signings are you looking to make for your team? And what signings would you think would be great for this QPR team? And like I said at the start of the video, it helps me massively if you can hit the like button and, of course, subscribe to the channel as we look to march towards 70k. Thanks for listening to me. I'll see you in the next one.